we're gonna do in this next, it's 12:10. Yes? I'm looking at the math box right now. Yeah. We are gonna take it to 1. Okay, does that help you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I will respect your time because I know that, I actually want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here because it is an extra step. It is, it's a conversation to be had, in terms of talking about these issues. So I want to take the time to thank you right now and to kind of say, the reality is it's great for us to know, it's great for us to be aware. Now, what are you going to do about it, right? Like this idea. Well, technology in our last workshop will be looking at technology and different resources. And this is interesting because technology right now, we're going to talk about it in the context of utilizing technology in the classroom, not necessarily creating technology, right? So that's something to think about in terms of the use of the word. However, creating technology would actually be a really good way to engage students that perhaps are not typically engaged when it comes to the typical classroom, if we were to imagine a professor in the front lecturing all day. But I know that some of you are doing some really good integrating different ways to learn. Okay, so let's talk about this. So, what type of technologies do you already use? Blackboard.
Clickers.
Clickers. How many of you use clickers?
Chalk.
2. Chalk. Pencil. You're all technology, right?
Technology.
It's technology.
LiveScribe. Words.
LiveScribe. Do you use LiveScribe? Okay. Did you say? I was going to call you Bruce. See, that's what I get. Oh, yeah. Okay, Diana. Yeah. Do you like Diana or Diana?
If you can say Diana, Diana is what I grew up with.
Okay.
I always try to slide.
I know. I always tell people, if you ignore the I in my name, it's actually really easy to pronounce. So V, just like the letter V, Oleta, much easier than Violeta, which most people think. Violeta. So Diana. So what other technologies do you use?
The Starboard, so you write on the monitor and it comes out like that on the board.
Okay. What else?
Calculator.
Calculator. Yeah.
Graphics.
How can students access graphing calculators? Does it have to be like the TI blah 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 now?
We have a rental program. For $20, they can rent a calculator for
Very nice.
a semester.
Well, my husband the other day, he was like, "Well, God, I gotta do a calculation." He pulls up his phone, and it's the exact same calculator as his other calculator.
Yeah.
I was like, "That's pretty neat." In terms of utilizing things, you just downloaded the app. What other technologies?
Instead of Blackboard, I use something called Trello.
Jane, what does that do, Jane?
It's a free resource on the web. It has, you can have a page and it has lists, and lists have cards, and you can upload things, and it's much more accessible, and the students love it. They hate Blackboard, they love it.
Interesting. How many of you-
Trello.com.
Say it again.
Trello.
Trello. Okay, and I'll show you where you're gonna put all these great ideas that you're coming up with. You have a space online for you to put it. Okay, so I'll show you that in a minute. So any other brainstorming tools that
We use all sorts of software in engineering, Minitabs, MATLAB, LabVIEW.
Yeah.
I was sharing with Abby that I just came across an app called Courageon, I believe, and it's a career exploration in STEM app. So students take little quizzes, and they say, if you're good with working with people, if you're good at, doing this, and that, it gives them a couple of quizzes. And then it says, oh, you tend to fit, this profile in a way, and this profile closely matches to computer science engineering or some of your different careers, and then they click and they actually get to learn about that person and what they do. So that's kind of an interesting, just going back from moving them away from just medical school. It was like, well, what are some of the options, that you have? Not to say that that's a bad one, right? Because it's a good one. But what are some other options within that pathway that you can actually have access to? So we're going to do a connection of, let me see what I have here. Okay. So design cycle, how many of you have seen this? Those engineering folks, you're like, yeah, we're gonna use the design cycle, but in the context of curriculum design, which is called design thinking, a little different. So we're gonna investigate, plan. I'm like, did I automatically, oh, you know what? I know what. Because I stole the slides from another presentation, it's gonna move like in 5 seconds. Yeah, it has, I think, a minute. Yes, I did an Ignite presentation. Investigate, plan, create, evaluate, and modify, right? Watch it jump like right now. Okay, however, design thinking is for curriculum design. So we need to discover an issue, we need to interpret what that problem is, we need to come up with ideas, we need to experiment a little bit, and then we're gonna go through some type of evolution. And I know it's not the biology context for evolution, okay? And this happens in your classroom. So for curriculum, how might we create a curriculum where students can learn about the brain and who they are as learners? How might we create a curriculum where students' experiences are directly connected to, you know, the real world, things like that, right? What are some of those project-based learning opportunities? Space. We talked about space earlier today. Do you remember what I did? We moved. It has made a huge difference in how you've interacted with each other. And I don't know if you could tell. Go back, see? So 5 seconds ago. So that's a good question to ask. And if you actually train your students, say you have a space like this, and you train your students to move tables, you might have to practice a couple times, but they get good at it, you know, and they say, okay, we need group workstations, bam, you know, and then they're in group work. We need individuals, and then they can actually split it up. But it goes back to investment in time, so you can actually be more productive in the end, right? And you've gone to talk today, you've gone to share ideas, very, very different than if I would have left the U shape, where some people were outsiders, right? And not being included in the experience. Processes and tools. So if we say, you know what, we do want students to see what the 21st century strategies are in the real world, in the workplace today. How can you build university industry partnerships so you can actually have access to some of those professionals? That might be a problem you might have, okay? So the design process is really taking design thinking into action. And your outcome is going to be to build a solution, just like in engineering. But it's a classroom-based solution, okay? And we're actually going to do this in the context of your needs, okay? And so how does technology tie into this whole thing? Well, technology might actually provide some solutions for your needs. We need to identify what those needs are before I give you a list of 1,000 things that you might not necessarily need, right? So in your teams of threes, who has a team of 2? You have a team of 2? Oh, he's gone. Now I know he's gone. Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to, is there a team of 4? No? Okay, just making sure, maybe I'll be your third person. This link you're going to have access to, Abby's going to email it to you so you can have everything that, you know, all the different resources and the PowerPoint as well you're going to have. So the activity is you're going to select out of your 3 people, or all of you are going to share kind of an issue you have in your classroom, okay? Maybe it's students not even showing up. That could be your problem, right? Think about a problem, so everybody's going to share out, and then as a team you're going to decide which problem you want to tackle right now, okay? And we might have to scatter because I forgot to go grab the paper. We were supposed to have, or do you have paper?
I can go get some.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll have some big sticky paper, so each team has one. And you're pretty much going to interview. Once you decide which problem you want to tackle, you're going to summarize the problem. Well, what is it? Is it an issue of access? You know, your students are not, they do not come prepared to class. Well, what does that mean? Be more specific. So you're going to be questioning that other person, right? And then the next thing in the cycle is, does everybody say, Anand, we're interviewing you. Do we really understand your problem? Right? So get clarification on that. Then as a team, you're going to brainstorm solutions. Well, you could try this, or you could try that, or you could try this. Throw as many solutions as you possibly can. And then you're going to say, which one do you want to try out? Okay, I think that the best solution for my needs might be this. I'm going to give that a try. And guess what? You're actually going to do it at some point. I want you to be intentional in your design of your experiences and say, you know what? I have a big problem with students don't even we talked about not showing up, right? Are you gonna do anything different to make this experience different, or are you just gonna let it play out and expect the same results at the end of the semester? What is that problem gonna be, right? And if you say, students don't really like to help each other, they're really competitive because they know that that grade will be reflected in the outcomes, whether they get into medical school or not. How can we move away from that and actually help students work more collaboratively? That could be one thing, right? Then we're gonna leave it at that, right? Try solution. Then it's up to you to actually carry it out in your classroom, the person who gets chosen, and then think about it. Did it work or not? Then if you think about it, once you go through that whole process, somebody else in the future can actually have that. So what does that mean for technology? A lot of things can actually, for example, if you talk about, students, I ask a question and nobody ever wants to answer, or there's the same student that answers, right? Could we embed technology tools to help solve some of these problems? Would that be something we brainstorm about, okay? And I want you to think about that, and if you can't think of anything, then we can bring it to the bigger group and ask, well, does anybody know anything around, we know that there's the little clicker things, right? But what other things can we use in the classroom that don't take a lot of time to train students, but they can actually put responses, up there? I think Google just created, within their services, an app where you can actually write full equations as a response to showing what you know. Okay, so let's go back to, all right. So I want you to, we're gonna do shoulder partner, the person next to you, okay? Or there's two people. I want one person, okay? Give me your finger, give me your finger. Give me your finger. Lift the finger, okay? If you are going to be the person who wants to speak first. I need the person who wants to share one problem first. Okay, so we got one here. Who wants to share their problem first? Perhaps think about a problem they have in their classroom. Okay, you have no problem. Okay. Now, can you tell the group what we need to do first?
What we need to do first.
What we need to do first, yeah.
Are they identifying the problem or what?
Yeah, so we're gonna identify the problem first. What do we do next? You wanna add to it on that again? After we identify the problem, we're gonna do what?
Make sure we understand.
Be sure we understand it, or we can, they're like, be sure we understand it, you can repeat. Who else is gonna talk first? Let me see.
Brainstorm.
Brainstorm after that. Okay, what after that?
Try the solution.
Try the solution, okay, and then we're gonna leave it a reflection, and then go back to the cycle, right? Okay, so, go ahead, everybody in your team, the person who had their finger first can talk first. Share a problem that you're thinking about. If you wanna write it down, reflect, what else? Is there a problem I have? Maybe my life is grand, and we're good.
Showing up in class.
I like when she brought up was the actual, like not coming prepared to class.
And I've thought about that some of the students are saying that.
Okay, we're not showing, okay, we can not showing.
Keep track of it.